Hello and welcome to the Solar Farm Summit live stream. I'm your host, Dan French. I'm the founder and executive producer of the Solar Farm Summit. Today is part 3 of our 3-part pre-conference series previewing all the action that's coming to the Solar Farm Summit this year and trying to answer the big question. Our title this year, and in the background of kind of everything, is answering the energy and agriculture emergencies in farming communities. And I'll conclude today with overtime and bonus time and extra credit, digging into some of the substance. But today also serves as our kind of primer for next week's show. We're coming to McCormick Place 1 week from yesterday. The program will be in full swing 1 week from today. Again, at McCormick Place in Chicago along the lake. Our title sponsor again this year is American Farmland Trust. And so honored to have them anchoring the webinar series, help us bring it home and remind everybody what's happening, the importance of their work, what's kind of led up to this, but I won't steal their thunder. Let me go ahead. Well, first, you can see on the screen Mr. Ethan Winter from American Farmland Trust. He'll be our featured guest. And riding shotgun today is Katie Meyer from the Solar Farm Summit. She's our producer and education director. A little bit about us. We're doing the Solar Farm Summit. We're doing a lot of other things. The Virginia Solar Summit we do. North American Agrivoltaics Awards is coming back. Solar Farm Tours is coming soon. And there we are. Save the date. If you haven't already, register. Registration is still open. We have some booths still available. solarfarmsummit.com. That's the actual building right there. The beautiful shores of Lake Michigan there, just south of downtown Chicago at McCormick Place. We are co-locating. We are honored to be co-locating with US EPA's National Brownfields Conference, Brownfields 2025. You can check out the website, gobrownfields.org. Co-produced there with ICMA, the International County Management Association. Very relevant audience, also kind of about local development, economic development, one of the beloved federal programs, always 99-0 in the Senate, a lot of support for the states, eliminating negatives in the landscape, working backwards from pollution. And we're trying to do something similar with our prime lands and farmlands, working backwards with agrivoltaics. There we are, 2025 Solar Farm Summit, North America's Agrivoltaics Expo, coming back, our 3rd edition. Brought to you again by American Farmland Trust. Proud to have as our title sponsor, one of the OGs in the modern kind of conservation farming movement, born the year that I was born. A lot of serendipity there. Before we get to our featured guest, just to help orient folks again, and you'll have an opportunity to ask questions about midway through. Drop some questions in the chat. If you have any questions, you're not coming to Chicago, you can find all these maps on our website. We've tried to kind of customize things. You can scan that QR code. There's a custom interactive Google map that Katie made on her team. You can get some of this on your phone, but Chicago has 2 airports. There's lots of public transportation. You can take the Blue Line train very predictably from O'Hare all the way downtown. There's a Metro station that stops at McCormick Place. The CTA, the Chicago Transit Authority, the Green Line is right there. You can see the map on the left, walkable. And there's lots of taxi, Uber options. McCormick Place is actually the largest convention center in North America, and it has all the kind of infrastructure that one would expect. But any questions, you can find this on our website. Not too many hotels right by McCormick Place if you haven't made your accommodations yet. Lollapalooza is the weekend right before. This coming weekend is Lollapalooza right downtown. So hotels this weekend are expensive, but on Monday you can look across the whole city. There's a lot of options in and around Chicago, not too far away from McCormick Place. And we're not doing breakfast this year, so push the schedule back to allow folks to a little more time in the morning to get there. Or have breakfast meetings and things like that. And not on the map, but I did want to mention there's 2 buses too that are not shown here. It's the CTA bus line number 3, King Drive, and the number 21 on Cermak. So it kind of just depends which direction you're coming from. Just get on a number 3 bus, get on a number 21 bus, go in the right direction, and you'll find yourself at McCormick Place. Food options too. You can find, again, this map on our website. but we've got offset schedule this year. So Monday, the food court is not open. The expo does not open until Tuesday night with its food court, but Connie's Pizza is just across the Grand Concourse. There'll be the Lakeside Cafe on the lakeside of the building because we are just steps down to the shores of Lake Michigan in the venue. Pretty excited about that. And you'll be able to get this map. Conference attendees will. Awesome after hours schedule this year. You can see a lot of that detail there in the bottom right. And we're really looking forward to all of the social interconnection this year. Okay, quickly through the schedule. Again, you can find all this, but just to hit the highlights, we are getting started on Monday afternoon in kind of 3 different styles of forums. A researchers forum, the farmers forum is back, and the policy track we've rolled into its own forum. And so we'll kind of have 1 and 2 punches in each of these. Flash talks to start the researchers forum, and then a huddle. And then AFT will actually lead a farmer perspective session where we'll huddle kind of and have a farmer and ranchers forum. And similar in the policy track, we'll have a pushing policy boundaries kind of style session, and then we're going to have a policy action huddle together. We're super proud and honored actually this year to be the host for the documentary film world premiere of Save the Farm, Save the Future, Colorado Agrivoltaic Learning Center, produced and paid for this event, I think with some generous support from many others. And we'll have Mr. Byron Kominick himself from Jack's Solar Garden emceeing the world premiere. So if you are at the 2025 Solar Farm Summit, you're going to see this awesome documentary they've been cooking up for quite a while indeed, all about Jackson and actually the larger farm issues and the solar farm opportunity. And then Monday night capping, North American Agrivoltaics Awards is back. We just got the trophies. We know who's won. If you want to find out, be there to celebrate these champions and elevate their work. It's going to be better than it was last year. Last year was a great time, but we're really looking forward to going to the next level and having a good time all evening. Thanks. Shout out Lightstar for coming back. They threw an awesome after party last year, after hours, and they're doing it again Monday night, helping us start up the Solar Farm Summit right. Here's just wanted to quickly shout out that Farmer Perspectives Forum. We've got some of our folks from AFT in here and a nice collection of grazers and producers kind of scattered from around the country. Really looking forward to this one on Monday. Again, getting us started at 12:30. So grab a sandwich and come meet us. And here's the graphic for the North American Agrivoltaics Awards. Again, celebrating the best of the best. Monday evening. All right, Tuesday. I'm going to speed up just a little bit. We want to get to Ethan, I know, but there's a Lakeside Trail Run. So make sure you hydrate yourself at the Lightstar event. And the opening plenary I want to call out. You know, the real theme this year is viability and resilience and state and local leadership. You know, those kind of four segments of the square, if you will. We're very high on that. It's going to be the theme today, but it's the theme of the show. And I'm really jacked for the opening plenary Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Kind of a dream session, dream lineup on viability. Lunch, and then the expo I do want to call out doesn't open until 5:45. Again, with all our brownfield cousins, we'll have thousands of people in the expo this year. Really open it up in style for that first kind of big happy hour that we do in the expo hall all together. And introducing something new, the Solar Farmer Square. There will be a butchery demo. There will be solar farm food cooked and prepared and served in free sample style that evening. So I hope you can join us. And big shout out for Renewables Unwind, who's rotating to Chicago and helping us wind down and unwind in the evening after a robust day of brain busting, 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. on Tuesday. There's that plenary session. It's an honor for me to moderate, really a dream panel, kind of a diversity of leadership perspective, and then a couple farmers who are great contrasts. We'll kind of finish today's webinar with Byron and his story, research, agritourism, all the different things that he's done. And then Mr. Greg Gunthorpe, who a lot of folks in the Midwest may know. He's an agribusiness entrepreneur, been very successful, sells his meat to Disneyland and Caesar's Palace. And he will actually be there on Tuesday night, on Wednesday, serving up his lamb with Frontera Grill. I'll come back to that. On Tuesday, in the opening of the expo, though, we have Master Butcher, McCullough Kelly Willis from the Chicago Meat Collective. She's going to be demoing in our Solar Farmer Square. And I'm actually going to be cooking. I'll be sous chef and preparing some delicious solar lamb, provided courtesy of Cannon Valley Grazers in Minnesota. And it's all being sponsored by US Solar. Shout out them and Peter Schmidt. I think he's going to have some honey and some kind words for us to help get things going at the end of the day on Tuesday. Looking forward to a really good time. And then Wednesday and Thursday, I won't go through all this, but the hall really opens. Wednesday and Thursday are kind of the big expo days, plenty of programming too. There's a stage on the expo floor this year. There's the AgPV engagement zone this year, sponsored by Savion, with all kinds of interactive and educational opportunities. And I'll come back to that in a second. Networking reception on the East Terrace overlooking the lake, hosted by American Farmland Trust. And this evening, also very fortunate to have Solidarity rolling in. They're in Chicago and Denver usually, and they're going to be co-locating with us to do after hours on Wednesday night for a special solar farm Solidarity. Thanks, Pivot Energy. And then Thursday is STEM Day and Demo Day. There will be no grand stage sessions. We'll all be in the expo hall and the Lakeside Ballroom, really turning it up in the AgPV engagement zone, longer demo, a butchery demo. The Student Design Challenge Awards and Showcase is going to be happening. There'll be a couple busloads of kids coming in, and they'll be running around the expo. And then we're going to be bringing it home after we have some awards. The Renaissance circuits will be due, which we're turning up this year. If you go and you meet with a sufficient number of exhibitors, you can enter a draw for prizes, which this year include a booth for next year and flights. So really looking forward to turning that up. But you don't have to be present, but we will be having kind of a wrap conversation, final conversations and forward action. I'll be leading that, bringing it all home. If you have gas in the tank on Thursday, stick around. There'll be an after party at Showroom Food Hall. And last thing on the schedule is we're really proud. It just happened to be STEM Day for the WNBA. And the Chicago Sky and the Solar Farm Summit are collaborating for STEM Day. If you come to the Solar Farm Summit, we can get you a discount to come to the game. It's Thursday night at 7 p.m. It's going to be part of our, unofficial after party. If you're staying an extra night, if you do come with the family friendly and STEM night right there at McCormick Place at Wintrust Arena, walkable. Great way to close out your time in Chicago. There it is. And big shout out to the Chicago Sky and their dedication to education. There's the expo. It's awesome. The Brownfielders are on the left. There's kind of too much happening. We still have some booths left. Actually, it's a little out of date because I know a couple of those are spoken for, but feel free to jump in. It's really EPA's floor, but there's a federal rate and a nonprofit rate. And there you can see the Solar Farmers Square demo kitchen free sample sponsored by US Solar with all those great partners: Gunthorpe Farms, Frontier Grill, Cannon Valley Grazer, Chicago Meat Collective, Solar Pollinators, some honey from Virginia, and shout out American Land Board for their support. They do lamb jams all over the country, and we wouldn't have been able to think about doing something like this without them. It'll be right there in the front of the hall, 1200. You can see that kitchen demo. That's going to be the Solar Farm Square. You find me there. It's going to be a good time. And there's our after hours little schedule. Oh, and just quickly, you'll get this in your folder, but the AgPV Engagement Zone, super stoked. So much happening. Yes, there will be bags. There will be a big map. A lot of things to do. And shout out to all the educational partners and institutions from University of Georgia, Purdue, Wisconsin, UIC, Inspire, for plugging in. We got a lot of big brains, and the brain trust in this community grows by the day. And thanks for everybody's hard work, what you're doing to break the mold. Oh, and there's the bag. Shout out Encore. Everybody comes. That's the official tote on the left, and there will be strawberries on the floor. Oh, and I see No Farms, No Beer. That's actually AFTs. You can't see the logo. It's on the other side. But we will have koozies again this year. Oh, here's a zoom in on our research hubs with our partners. Again, thanks to all the institutions and land-grant universities Y'all are doing incredible work, and it's going to be even more important as we kind of transition from the pilot stage to the more mature stages of agrivoltaics. And speaking of which, at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Ethan Winter from American Farmland Trust, who is one of the foremost organizations in conservation agriculture, but been leading the charge in agrivoltaics and putting a lot of thought and context, four corners around what we're talking about here. They have their smart solar program, and now I'm at risk of stealing his thunder, but I'd like to introduce Mr. Ethan Winter from AFT, National Smart Solar Director, which was announced, I think, at the very first Solar Farm Summit in 2023. They had that big reveal on stage, and just couldn't be more impressed by their work and grateful for their support, because I don't think agrivoltaics would be where it is today without AFT's leadership. And without further ado, I'd like to just flip it over to Mr. Ethan Winter, who's going to explain for himself who they are, what they're doing, why it's so important. Ethan, are you there, sir?
I am here. Can you see my screen?
No, I may have to stop my share.
I can see it though.
I think are we up?
Okay, yeah, gotcha. Thanks, Ethan. And feel free to drop your questions for Ethan. When he's done, we'll do a little Q&A with him and I. You can ask me questions about the show. Take it away, Mr. Winter.
Great. Well, it's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you all for joining this tune-up for the Solar Farm Summit. I'm a Chicago native, seventh generation Illinoisan, so it's a real treat to be coming back to Sweet Home Chicago for this conference. And I want to thank Dan and Katie for their incredible work to pull us all together for this conference and for this cause. AFT is proud to be the 2025 title sponsor. That does give us this opportunity ahead of the conference to introduce ourselves. I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about who AFT is, what we're doing in the smart solar space, and highlight some of the members of our team who are going to be in the program in Chicago. I'm also going to leave with a few of the exciting initiatives that we're working on right now that we hope will draw you to our booth and potentially, build on our collaborations in this area. I do want to highlight too that this is really happening at a very important time for energy and agriculture and rural investment in our country. So really important sort of subtext for our event. So who is AFT? AFT's mission is to save the land that sustains us. We do this in three ways, and we've been doing this for 40 years. So we are not a new organization that's popped up in response to solar. We've been working for 4 decades to support farmers and protecting farmland, keeping farmers on the land, building a next generation pipeline of producers, and promoting sound farming practices, including regenerative agriculture. Some of the themes that we focus on in this work include rural prosperity, healthy, equitable food systems, climate resilience, clean water, and healthy soils. Big focus for us at the summit, food security, and wildlife and working habitats. We're structured in an interesting way. We are a national organization. Our head office is in Washington, D.C., but most of our staff, many folks will be happy to hear this, are out in the field. And we have 8 regional programs across the country, over 100 staff working in our regional programs across 25 states. And the 8 regional programs are highlighted here. We also work in some areas where we don't have a regional program. And that's been a place where, for example, in Colorado, where AFT has been able to do some really interesting work outside of the regional programs. Our national initiatives, and if you're thinking about this, really do cross-cut into the solar arena. We work on water and farmland protection, farm bill policy, as well as state agricultural policy and farmland policy. We have a very active research program, a Farms for New Generation initiative, which is about getting new and beginning farmers prepared to farm and getting access to land. We have a big focus on farm viability and micro grants to support farmers who are looking to adopt best practices. We have a Women for the Land initiative, which is, I think, one of our most exciting programs, really supporting underserved women who are in farming and getting into agriculture. And if you're interested in learning more about all of these resources, our Farmland Information Center is an established clearinghouse for materials that is run in partnership with the USDA and AFT. Now, how did a 40-year-old farmland organization get into solar? One of the ways that we got into this was really understanding that in order for us to decarbonize the grid and tackle climate change, we were going to need a significant shift towards much more solar. And the Department of Energy estimated we would need at least 10 million acres of land to decarbonize the grid by 2050. Most of that would be in rural communities, and we estimated that about 80% or more of ground-mounted utility solar would be on agricultural lands. By and large, that estimate has proven fairly accurate across the country, with some variations. AFT is focused on ensuring a brighter future for farmers and farming communities, and that means really paying attention to this new land use and trying to shape it in a way that's as beneficial as it can be for agriculture. We also recognize that historically, the drivers for farmland loss and conversion have not been solar. They have been residential development, exurban sprawl, urban development. So those forces are still very much in play. And under a business as usual scenario, we could lose another 18 million acres of land. Solar now adds another potential X factor there. But solar is different than a parking lot. It's different than a strip mall. And we think that there are some real benefits in incorporating solar and agriculture together. We take a multi-lens approach to this work. We have a deep understanding of agricultural lands across the country and how they're changing in terms of land use. That's under our Farms Under Threat analysis. And if you're interested in really geeking out on farmland in your county, or in your state or in your region, you can go to our Farms Under Threat interactive website, and you can zoom in and see farmland that has been lost, as well as projections for where that farmland could be converted in the future, and why that's so important to pay attention to. Another thing that we look at, of course, are climate change drivers. We know water scarcity is going to be a continuing threat to agricultural viability. And then we've got solar. We understand where solar is happening on a regional and state basis, and we've done some estimates, again, based on the earlier DOE projections on which states would have to have what kind of amount of solar to decarbonize. And states like Texas and California, the Carolinas, states like that would see quite a lot, hundreds of thousands of land, again, most of that agricultural. And for those developers on the call, we know how difficult it is to get some of these projects permitted because folks are reacting to the potential loss of productive agricultural land. We're looking for a real solution here. We're also, again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, aware of the current dynamics here. Federal policy shifts are certainly going to change the math and the financing for solar. But our energy needs are continuing to grow exponentially, something that Dan and Katie have talked a lot about. That's not going to change anytime soon. And solar has some real benefits in terms of cost, scalability, and usability for a lot of different use cases, right? So despite the federal policy changes, we know we're going to need a lot more solar to meet our energy needs. And there are a number of major agricultural states that are really seeing this upswing in solar deployment. State agencies, landowners, other farm organizations continue to reach out to AFT for guidance on how this solar transition can work with agriculture to the extent possible and not displace farmers or convert our most productive land for growing food. If you're not familiar with this, you don't have the Smart Solar tattoo yet, let me give you a little introduction into our principles. Our work is guided by these 4 principles to prioritize solar siting on buildings and land not well suited for farming unless it's agrivoltaics. Again, that's recognizing that we're already losing farmland and we want to make sure that we're protecting the most important resources for food security and rural resilience. We want to safeguard soils and the ability for land to be used for agriculture after projects are decommissioned. So that relates to soil health, how construction happens, and also decommissioning to the extent that we're going to see projects decommissioned instead of repowered. Our third principle, which really brings us into the summit, is to grow agrivoltaics as a bona fide win-win solution for farmers, energy users, energy generators, and others. And we mean pretty serious business here. We're talking about putting the ag in agrivoltaics, right? So we're really focusing on a rigorous definition. Earlier this year, we disseminated a formal set of recommendations for state and federal bodies to look at when they're defining agrivoltaics with a farmer-centered approach. And the idea is not to stop solar. It's not even to slow solar. It's to make sure that it really works and weaves with agricultural interests so that we end up with both more viable, thriving farms and an energy pathway that's going to work for local communities. And that really relates to our fourth principle, which is promoting equity and farm viability in everything that we do. Absolutely thrilled about the team that's coming from AFT this year. We have 8 folks who are going to be included directly in the program that Dan just reviewed, and I'm going to quickly highlight some of those sessions here. But I hope that you'll spend some time at our booth and look for us. We have folks who are focused on outreach, on agrivoltaics technical assistance, on communications, on research, and and grazing, as Eric Bronson brings that expertise. I'm particularly excited about bringing in Jenny Lester-Moffett for the plenary. Jenny is a former undersecretary of agriculture and also was at number 2 at the California Department of Agriculture before she went to USDA. So a heavy hitter and someone who really understands market development and opportunities in agriculture that we want to really be thinking about to raise the potential of agrivoltaics in the US. We have a number of other staff from our regional programs who are also coming from New York and the Midwest program, and Joel Tatum from our Farmers Powering Communities will also be there. I'm going to mention a little bit about what Joel's doing with Farmers Powering Communities. This is one of the initiatives that we hope folks at the summit will be interested in learning more about. About 3 years ago, we launched a partnership with Edelin Renewables out of Kentucky. And this is a community solar development program where we are elevating our smart solar principles and agrivoltaic approaches to a community solar portfolio. We know that developing these projects can be challenging, where they're locally reviewed and approved. And we're confident that an agrivoltaic and AFT approach really does add value and differentiates these projects. We are going to be making an exciting announcement in Chicago on a new industry partner for FPC. So stay tuned on that. And if you're interested, again, please come by our booth. Earlier this year, we also launched a new initiative called Prosperity Partners. This is a consulting program for AFT. We had a lot of interest from developers and landowners and farmland organizations asking for more than kind of just general guidance. They wanted specific project advice as they were considering agrivoltaics. So we have responded with that through Prosperity Partners. Dr. Emily Cole, who will be in our program, is leading this work right now, and we have already secured our first collaborations with several developers. And this is not limited to developers. If you have landowners who are interested in exploring a project and want AFT on their side to help navigate that process, we can do that. And we can also work with municipalities, even state agencies that are interested. So this adds a whole new dimension to AFT's work in terms of consulting and direct advice. We typically work under an NDA, so we understand all of the proper business practices and propriety there. Excited to share more about Prosperity Partners in Chicago if you're interested. Quickly highlighting some of the folks who are going to be in the program, starting off on Monday, and Dan covered this well already. Greg Plotkin and Eric Bronson from AFT will be part of the Farmer Perspective session with Greg moderating. Really excited for this session. Eric has brought a great perspective to AFT as one of the first professional solar grazers in the Mid-Atlantic. Greg has been with us for almost 2 decades and is an expert in communications If you've seen us on LinkedIn, it's probably thanks to Greg and the great work he's done to help frame and message this work. I mentioned Jenny as part of the opening plenary. Again, really excited to have her expertise as part of this. Emily Cole will also be part of the soil health session on the expo floor. So if you're interested in soil and you want to make the conversion from calling it dirt to the living organism that it is, come join us for the Soil Health 101 demos. I think that will be really exciting, and that will be joined by Katie Field and Alan Bailey from our Midwest program. Emily will also be on the Soil Health 201 panel the next day, on Wednesday. And also on Wednesday, Austin Kinzer, our agrivoltaics senior technical specialist, and I are doing a double on soil health. We're really excited. We've brought in some of the leading experts in soil health research, as well as in applications and best practices for advising solar companies on protecting soils before, during, and after project construction. This is going to be increasingly important as communities are asking what are the impacts of these projects and how can solar live up to its promise that this land will be at least as good at the end of the project life as it was at the beginning. How do we really do that? And there's a science to this. It's not necessarily just letting the land sit. There may be active practices that we want to incorporate. So I'm really excited to have Austin and my panel. And I also want to highlight that we will be announcing a new solar soil health guide that will be coming out at the summit. This has been several months in the making, and we think it's going to be a very helpful resource for the broader community. Katie Field is going to be on another session on Wednesday afternoon. She's going to highlight some of the solar survey work that we've done with farmers across the country as part of the session on understanding community sentiment and what agrivoltaics means to different constituents. We're thrilled about that session. Katie came to us in December from the San Luis Obispo County Farm Bureau and has a lot of experience in livestock and farming. So we're thrilled to have Katie as part of our program this year. And Alan will also be joining us as part of the Soil Health 101 on the floor. If you don't know about Alan's work, he is leading our on-the-ground research in the Midwest, including with our partnership with Soul Systems. Very exciting work, and we hope that you'll come by to learn more. I couldn't have this opportunity, Dan, without thanking some of our key partners, allies, and investors in this work. We have an active and growing portfolio of corporate sponsors. If your company's interested in learning more about engaging directly in our Smart Solar program and getting just more interaction with the AFT team and being able to use our logo in some of your materials, please be in touch about the corporate sponsorship. We're also recently announced, I guess just last week, a wonderful new partnership with the National Renewable Energy Lab and their Inspire program. This is going to be known as AgriTech, and it will be a competitive technical assistance program. We're envisioning 4 cycles of technical assistance. The first cycle is open now. And I think Katie was going to post a link in the chat here. There will be more to share at the summit, and our booth is very close to NREL. So we can work together if you're interested in learning more about how to access that technical assistance opportunity, which is open to landowners, farmers, nonprofit organizations, municipalities, and others. So yeah, really thrilled to be working alongside NREL this year. We're going to be in booth 900. Again, pretty cool location here next to NREL and the Nature Conservancy and several others. So please don't hesitate to be in touch. Find us in Chicago. And I think I'll wrap there, Dan, and happy to take any questions. Thanks again for the time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ethan. Anybody got questions for Ethan? Feel free to drop in the chat or me. I'll take questions at the very, very end because we're going to go into study hall. But if you got a question for the show or anything coming to, you kind of said it all, Ethan. We just laid it out. You got to be there, really. Seeing is believing. And you kind of led me to a new kind of in-house joke, or I guess the word is out. why are they letting us get away with all this and all this solar business? Is because we're actually a soil conference in not so good disguise. We're working backwards and trying to think about how we can deliver all this other value add. So anyway, yeah, it's all about the soil. Another incredible lineup of soil experts this year, and a lot of these other pieces. I mean, the kilowatts are important, but we know how to do that. And it's all these other things that we dig into, roll the sleeves up at the show. Awesome. Well then, Ethan, while I mess around, share my screen, I know there's a Cubs game in town. Are you sneaking off to the Cubs game?
Definitely a diehard fan, and had the privilege of seeing them beat the Yankees in the Bronx a few weeks ago.
Wow.
So I may try to get there on Sunday afternoon if any folks are interested in joining. Ping me after this. I did want to mention Katie Field has put in the chat a way for you to schedule a visit with AFT folks. It's at the jotform.com link and in that QR code that we shared earlier. This is a good way to get us scheduled together if you're able to do that.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Ethan. Hang on. Now we're going to switch gears. I won't be offended if any of y'all drop off, but this is for posterity. It'll be archived out on YouTube forever, and I'm going to try to do 3 webinars in one. We've punished y'all with hundreds of slides. Can everybody see my screen again?
Yep.
Good. I'm going to minimize that. And so, yeah, this is all my opinion. Everything that follows, is my own work, our own work. And, agrivoltaics rolls up to me really at the highest level as the biggest answer, maybe the most important farm technology in a generation, probably the world's most significant water conservation technology. And I'm going to kind of pick up where Ethan left off and kind of dig in and explain kind of the big why as we have been. And I'll recap where we were just for some of y'all who weren't there. This was our roadmap in part 1. We went through quite a lot, a couple hundred slides, setting the big picture in antiquity, getting into our triple emergency, rural emergency, ag emergency, energy emergency. And is agrivoltaics the answer? I don't know, but we got some big problems. As y'all maybe know, I'm an old brownfielder. The world is a brownfield. We've been at this machinery thing for hundreds and hundreds of years, and we can go find Roman iron smelting pollution in the ice cores in the polar caps. So thousands of years of heavy metal smelting is literally everywhere, and the damage is incalculable. Basically, as soon as we invented agriculture, we started making a brownfields. The Fertile Crescent, the cradle of ancient civilization, Mesopotamia was really the world's first brownfield. We invented farming there, but of course, it's very hot and dry. The climate has been drying and changing over drying and heating up over thousands of years. And 90% of rainfall in dry lands evaporates right back into the atmosphere. And of course, they had a thin water table, very simple dike systems that trapped salt in the soil over hundreds and thousands of years. And eventually, as we know, the Bible picks up and Babylon fell. And this is kind of what it looks like today. Not picking on Syria, but still plagued by dust storms. We saw this and went through it last time. This is just one that hung around for a week in Iraq in 2022. And in part 1, we went back and looked at the American story, not unknown to us here in the United States. We all know the Great Dust Bowl, a decade of bad policy and unfettered market development led to one terrible Black Sunday. Not ancient history for us here in the United States either, though. We looked I'm from downstate Illinois, mostly moved around a little bit, but Springfield, we had a flash drought on I-55 South, and 7 people were killed. Visibility went to 0, and the state police report was pretty conclusive. It's just the wrong weather conditions at the wrong time in the planting season, and the winds blew, and people died. So it's 2025, and AI and Terminator is about to take over. But if it doesn't rain at the right time, people still die. And just recently, it's out by my auntie's house, New Lenox, Illinois. Chicagoland had its first dust storm. ever, or in a long time. Just May of this year. Zero visibility. I don't think anybody died that day, unfortunately. But we went through a lot of data, and I'm just going to pull one chart. You know, we got pretty good data now. We have very recent and comprehensive drying across the whole planet. So more than 2/3 of the planet is drying out. We looked at the ag emergency. We looked at a lot of USDA data. This is from the last census, and we saw that the average number of farms now has fallen below 2 million. You got to go all the way back to basically Abraham Lincoln to find more farmers in the United States. There's a lot of reasons for this. It's a little ironic. You know, population's exploded, food demand has exploded, restaurant eating is at all-time highs, even with inflation, and yet where farmers are trapped by progress. We produce more, and even though population has grown, agricultural prices and inflation has grown, agricultural prices have steadily declined, and we're kind of trapped by success. So we ask this big question, you know, how can we save farms and raise a new generation of farmers without raising food prices? That would be my magic wand. Oh, all right, I can get everybody into the egg business if we just make them $50 a dozen. Of course, the rest of civilization would not stand for that, as we have all seen recently in the news. So the answer in farm communities has been, well, we hustle, we innovate, and we adapt. We'll farm in the dirt with spoons if we can slap a label on that and get an extra 10%. We're going off the farm, of course, right? Like almost every farm has someone working off the farm. 40% of US farmers have someone working 200 days or more off the farm. And that's true really across all the United States. So we couldn't do it without those office jobs. Agritourism is something else that's working. I'm happy to report we looked at that, you know, up 12% versus the last census, and over $1 billion now. So real money. And then the strong growth in direct sales. This is hard to do. Not everybody's built to go retail, but we've seen real hardy economic growth way above trend. $17.5 billion now. And a lot of that's, you know, going direct to retail, but also institutions, school buying, farm to table, just all kinds of things. But that's all happening. We're doing all that, these pockets of strength and growth, and we're still losing those farms. Part of it is this energy emergency. This is President Trump's, one of his first actions in office on January 20 was to declare an energy emergency. We looked at that. It's really about rising prices. Yeah. Energy inflation during the pandemic, we actually had one of the biggest jumps of all time, and we were paying as much as we'd been since AFT was founded, and even adjusted for inflation, it was the highest energy spend by American consumers ever. There's a lot of reasons for that we covered before, but it's a demand growth story as much as anything else. We do the Virginia Solar Summit down in Virginia, where we have more data centers than anywhere else in the world. It's the digital beating heart of the global economy. Dominion Energy is the dominant utility down there. And right before the last Virginia Solar Summit this year in May, they had to raise the base rate this year. We got a lot in the queue, but it's a race to build electrons, and it's on. And we've got bottlenecks, basically. We looked at Mr. John Ketchum there on the left. He's the CEO of Nextera, and you've probably seen him in the news just pointing out he's done more natural gas than anybody over the last 10 years. But if you want a new natural gas turbine today to create those electrons, you're gonna have to get in line and wait and pay triple the price, by the way. This were just a few years ago. So we can't really add natural gas, and that's why solar is so important. Shout out Sia for putting this graphic together on the right. A lot of us were up on the Hill lobbying and trying to save the IRA. Ultimately failed, but we certainly can't. We got to save these electrons because we can't build more natural gas. Then maybe nukes are coming next. But if we need something today, it's going to be solar, storage, and maybe wind. So this is our last question, part one. Still recapping. How can we save farmers and raise a new generation of farmers without raising food prices and without getting pinched by higher energy prices? Quite an impossible question indeed. It would be nice, though, if we could find a virtuous cycle to push back, to unwind this very unvirtuous cycle or circle that's been eating away at the business of farming and farming communities really for 100 years or so. All right, then we, and I'll do this quicker, but in part two, we really pivoted and looked at China. We went through this long roadmap. I encourage you to go back and look at that. Looking at a lot of these big questions that we looked at in part one from a Chinese perspective. First, though, we put the trade war in context. and I won't do it all again, but just to point out here, a lot of news, a lot of noise. What is it all about? Well, here's a snapshot of where global trade was in 2000. Heads up, U.S. versus China. And you can see we were the dominant trade. We were the number one trade with 164 countries, China just 25. By 2024, the script had flipped, basically the other way around. China's absolutely eaten our lunch in terms of global trade. Ooh, and I don't have the money slide, but basically an order of magnitude greater growth than ours. But we went on to diagnose China's economic geography, and I guess that's one of the hats that I wear is an economic geographer, and we won't get into all of it now, but we dissected China much like we did the United States, probing for weaknesses, and I'll point out just a couple of them very quickly as it relates to some of the most important ones, and that is back in 2016, China surpassed us as the number one importer of crude oil and condensate in the world. So drill, baby, drill. It's been a theme my entire life. Energy independence, and the United States has attained it, thanks in large part to fracking, maybe the last carbon boom. And now all that is really been copied and pasted onto the Chinese strategic board. They've got to figure out how to secure those long supply lines. Here it is. You're also probably seeing the South China Sea in the news. I'll make y'all a little bit of a global geopolitical expert today. Why does China care so much about the South China Sea? A lot of history, a lot of reasons, but it's also because 1/3 of all petroleum products are going through the South China Sea, including some of the world's choke points like the Straits of Malacca. They are the number one customer, in fact, and you can see that split right here. China cares very much about global trade and those supply lines. And I'll also point out the Straits of Hormuz, also recently in the news. China is actually pulling the most oil through the Straits of Hormuz. And Iran, you can see Iran there. I don't think that number is quite right because China's buying a lot more oil from Iran. Okay, maybe a bigger problem though, and a historic and ancient problem. We looked at how China has precious little fresh water. 6% of the world's fresh water, but 20% of its people. You can see the heads up comparison. The United States, an embarrassment of freshwater riches on the left. China, in terms of large nations, truly water scarce. Deserts are on the march. Most of China is desert or semi-arids. They've been planting a lot of trees since 1978. Again, they have their own strategies to push back what Ethan mentioned, what I mentioned, this kind of desertification of planet Earth. We're drying out and dying out, and China has really been in the front. Just the way that their geography is set up, I can't recap it all now, but they're heating up the most. They've had some extreme drought events, dried up the rivers, stopped their hydrogeologic dams, and shut the factories down. But it's an old problem. They've had this 3 North Shelter Forest program, the Great Green Belt, planting trees for decades. Billions of trees have died, though. It turns out trees need water. So they've also had their own dust bowls. You can see in 2021 down in Beijing too. So China's ancient water crisis is a contemporary one, and they've had also fast-tracked their brownfield problem. And so the fresh water that China does have is mostly polluted. 90% of the groundwater, 75% of its rivers and lakes, 50% of its water is unusable for agriculture, and even 15% of China's drinking water is contaminated. So how have they dealt with this? Because it's actually the largest agricultural market in the world. They are not self-sufficient, but they are feeding about 80% of Chinese calories are produced in China. How have they been able to do this? Well, it's glass technology. It's greenhouses, and that here you can see that before and after. Shout out our friends at NASA and the Earth Observatory. You can see here one of the largest concentrations of agriculture under glass anywhere in the world. China has 60% of all the planet's greenhouses, almost 2 million hectares of agriculture in China, making the most, because of course, under glass, you might save, in an enclosed greenhouse, you might save 97% of your water. So China cares very much about anti-desertification technologies, and now they're taking it to the next level. You might have seen this in the news, but they have ring-fenced the Taklamakan Desert. So this is real terraforming, solar problem solving at a huge scale. The Chinese have put their finger on a technology that conserves water without using it. It's called glass. And it could be solar glass. It could be agrivoltaics. It could be ecovoltaics. And with a combination of these technologies, now China has really turned the tides against the deserts and pushing back. This is some marketing from the CCP a little before and after here, way out Western China, Uyghur Autonomous Region. They are pushing back. Let's look again, Western China, the largest agricultural farm in the world is actually here in Western China. They're doing goji berries. Lots and lots of goji berries, a gigawatt worth of goji berries. I think a lot of folks in our agrivoltaics community are aware of this. Let's go further Western China by Qinghai Lake. Let's look at Wu Wei, the Longying Reservoir, excuse me. We'll look at Wu Wei in a second, I think. They've covered this valley floor, desertifying grassland, historic grassland. We can see a little bit of a progression. Shout out to Solar Farm Summit team for harvesting these satellite images, and they have returned the grasses to Western China, and with it, the ranchers and livelihoods. Oh, we had a beautiful shot of the ranchers there. But you can find this this paper that they published after. The results have come in the same facility and found that photovoltaic development has primarily induced positive effects on the region's microclimate, physical and chemical properties of the soil, and diversity of the plant and microbial communities as supported by recent findings. So this project that I just showed you. So it really rolls up to the top strategic level for China. And you can find President Xi Jinping talking about it directly. And in their most recent plan, or their previous plan, the last 5-year plan had called for large-scale development of this sand plus solar anti-desertification method. And here I'll read a quote from Xi Jinping. China will continue to promote the adjustment of industrial structure and energy structure, vigorously develop renewable energy, and accelerate the planning and construction of large-scale wind and solar projects in desert areas. Why? Because China knows better than most, when we protect nature, it rewards us. When we exploit nature ruthlessly, it punishes us without mercy. And so very recently, it's been making new plans. So the next 5-year plan, you might have seen this in the news just a few weeks ago. It broke when we did this this webinar part 2. China has announced 253 gigawatts of anti-desertification agrivoltaics. All these commissions, they've gotten together. So that's 1.66 million acres in China will be restored and rehabilitated by the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP. Okay, wow, that was all kind of recap. In the time we have left, I will sprint through and we'll stay for bonus time and overtime, and you're free to drop off. But we are not out of the game in America. This is the Inspire map, a little out of date. Make sure you go to inspire/agrivoltaics_map and you can get the latest and greatest and see where we're at. But can we do what China's doing? We have our problems. We talked about it big time in part 1, diagnosing America in distress. Long list. A lot of us have been working on some of these problems our entire careers. Not every community has every one of these issues, but it's kind of the menu of options. And we're trying to add them up, or match them up. So for insufficient tax revenue, we need new tax revenue. There's a lot of things that could do that. Agrivoltaics can be one of those things. And for each of these things, we can match up. I won't do it all now. Come to the show. You can learn more. But for soil exhaustion, we can do soil repair, just like China. And that's what this local proactive model, this local playbook for agrivoltaics is all about. The power of proactive pro-agriculture development. The solar land rush and the electricity gold rush is empowering local stakeholders, communities, and non-traditional development interests and traditional development interests to take charge, to implement these integrated project models and economic gardening strategies that can put the community first, conservation first, crops first, or critters first. So let's look at it. Shout out the Nature Conservancy. They're coming to the show. They'll have a booth. They're also sponsoring on the brownfield side of the house. Why? Because they have figured out that solar can do more. Let's look quickly at one of their projects. This is the Cumberland Forest. This is solar funded restoration. Keeping us in the game with China. So former surface mines, y'all know I care about that. If you come down to Virginia, we started as a Brightfield redevelopment conference. The Nature Conservancy has basically become the developer. They've found mines that they think can be developed. They're prepping them for development and putting out their own RFPs with their own financial terms and their own community benefits because they know their communities and their regions better than anyone else. They know areas that should be preserved for conservation where they might not like to put solar. But what if we do solar over here on this mine land and restore some soil and return some function to Mother Nature? And we can take that money and buy even more land. And that's what the Nature Conservancy's done, discovered this kind of virtuous cycle, if you will, where solar-funded conservation can pay for more conservation, and they have their levers on the decision-making wheel, and they can kind of decide where and when it goes. They've brought on, this is the first one that they did a while ago. There's been several other rounds now, but this is the original one. Sun Tribe, Dominion Energy, and Soul Systems, 7 sites, 125 megawatts. This was the follow-up, 800 megawatts, Starfile Coal Mine in Kentucky. Nature Conservancy, Rivian, and Bright Night. So this economic gardening that I keep talking about, it's about bootstrapping. It's about using entrepreneurs, using your local economy and environment to grow rather than, say, attracting that factory from overseas or somewhere else. That's really what it's all about. Again, I'm going for the Blitz today, so I can't get into it all. But it's just this very organic, introspective method that was pioneered by Littleton, Colorado to great success without incentives, kind of beginning where you are and growing with what you've got and trying to build on piece by piece. So quickly, this concept of a food shed development. So just a food shed is like a watershed, but for food or for agriculture. So it's a geographic region. You can think about it as kind of a local food system, but not sure that that's really a thing anymore in this kind of international food vending machine that we have. But this is what it can kind of look like. Just an example, Tahoe food shed map. You know, who's growing what where? How can we help identify opportunities? You know, the first step in market making is market discovery. And if you don't know, they got delicious solar lambs for sales up in the Highlands. How would you know? So this idea is to kind of bring all these things together where food shed development, the economic gardening and food shed development can become a lever for targeted agrivoltaics investments. So as a community or as a farmer, as a region, as a city government, as a regional economic development organization, you can do some of the work. You can put the leg in up front and find out maybe there is a generational farmer on the edge of town. And maybe we don't have a farmer's market. Maybe there's a list of infrastructure that we need. We need investment. We have some of this investment coming anyway. And if we're more strategic and systemic and do some of our own homework, then maybe we can match up some of the opportunities with some of our current problems and achieve more. So that's the playbook, basically. Borrowing from the brownfield world, borrowing from these economic gardening strategies, and beginning the process. So this is objective agroeconomics. It's a methodology. It's a community process. It's available to everyone. You may not know where you're going, but there's a way to get there. And that's one of my favorite quotes, my life quotes. I should probably get this tattoo, Ethan, right after I get the AFT tattoo, the Smart Solar tattoo. I do not know where I'm going, but I know how to get there. Lion Tracker's Guide for Life. So we can do this objective assessment of our food shed. We can use quantitative data and qualitative data. If you noticed on the food shed slides, socioeconomic metrics are important. I know it's top of the hour. Feel free to drop your questions. Stay for overtime. I won't be too much longer. So basically, crunch up all the data that you've got, and some of the opportunities will start to reveal themselves. And then secondarily, survey the community. Go out, engage, talk to people, go to the coffee shop. My grandpa was taking me to L&M coffee shop as a young boy, and we talked to farmers every weekend. Some of my fondest memories, and they know what's happening in your communities. You can do stakeholder mapping. This is just one example, but it gets quite complicated, and maybe there's some VIPs that get involved, some famous people. Even Dave Chappelle lives in Ohio. You never know until you start asking around who might want to get behind some of these projects. And we've been trying to kickstart growth in rural and farm communities for decades. That's what Farm Viability has been all about. This is the Latah County Food Innovation Center, a good idea. I was a part of this project, but we have, with everything, every kind of development, we're asking these threshold questions: to build or not to build. How do we get there? And with food shed development, it looks a particular kind of way, but this is what it could look like. Hey, where are the grocery stores? Where are the town centers and the people, maybe those town squares? where are our producers, particularly those ones maybe who already are doing farm to table or going retail, and maybe are gung-ho to play. And we can start to layer these things together. Of course, the transit really matters. How can people get there? All the outlets. I've got there's layers and layers of data, of course. And every food shed looks different, but I just wanted to show you something real. If you find out where everything is, then some of the gaps will start to identify themselves. You can go pull all this USDA census data, who's growing what in your community. This one, I'll just point out that red number all the way over on the right in Whitman County. We thought, wow, there's 2,443 acres of vegetables already. But it turned out to really just be kind of one guy growing peas. So we didn't have as much maybe local food as and it was already all bought up. So we didn't have as much local food as the census may have indicated. But again, until we start probing and asking, we won't know. This is Blue Mountain Station. Another example, again, not agrivoltaics specifically, but they rallied at the community level and got this thing built. That's what it really looks like. Those projects, by the way, were happening kind of at the same time, both out west. So here it is, just an 8-step methodology. Not going to go through it now. But it does exist. I've been hinting at it for the last 2 webinars and a couple other appearances. But this is it. It's about building this asset map, taking this objective data-driven approach, and engaging the community and finding those willing human players. And then maybe, getting to an RFP, an RFQ, getting your mayor on board. And probing the market, putting your wants and needs and community benefit wish list together and testing the market. Maybe it's too much, but if 12 bids all come in, then you're on the right track. So it really is all these opportunities. And I know I'm over time and out of time, but we've been waiting for some of these rains to come for a long time. It's really been, I like to joke in the worst way, I suppose. For some rural counties, we haven't had investment of this size and scale as solar really since the trains came in, 1910 and things like this. And so it's a generational opportunity, this size of investment. Some communities are saying no, and it's just full stiff arm. But as I think a lot of folks in our community understand, the opportunity of agrivoltaics is tremendous. It's adaptable. It's multifunctional, and it builds in a lot of different value add from a conservation, from a brownfield and restoration perspective, all the way up to real value add for agriculture, which I'll get to now. So we can match up those problems. I'll just flash that again. And I'll show some of the breakthroughs. We're going to have these folks at the show speaking. Sunrays Foods, hope y'all are familiar with this, but China's making farms out of the desert, and we've had some trailblazers repowering their local food systems. And Montgomery Sheep Farm down in North Carolina is one, and their founder Joel, he's plugged into the program. And of course, y'all know Jack's Solar Garden. It's a community garden, really America's, I think, breakthrough agrivoltaics project. Captured a lot of hearts and minds and imaginations, and that's what it looks like. Byron will be at the show, speaking multiple times, including in the plenary, and Sunrays Foods is kind of an example of local food, and they've got a retail market. Byron has been so great going back to the agritourism piece, bringing people to the farm, and he's really built this lovely blend of different activities that's brought new life to his grandpa's land. And I was just there a few weeks ago for the first time myself, last month actually. It was great. All right, that's it. The future is bright. Rip through all that, only 5 over. But I hope to see you all at the 2025 Solar Farm Summit. There's a lot of resources on our website. I hope you found the agrivoltaics index by now. And I'll just call back and underscore what Ethan mentioned. We're all really jacked for this new program, Agritech. Dr. Dana Marie Thomas from Inspire is the lead on that. She's got feature time at the show. I don't even know if you can read this. It might be too small, but stay tuned. There's a lot more of those graphics coming. You'll be able to pick all this up at the Solar Farm Summit, of course, but stay tuned because we're not going away. Agrivoltaics is emerging across the aisle, I think, as a lot of our community knows. Democrats and Republicans all seem to agree that if we can add value and performance on America's farmland, why wouldn't we do that? Whether it's glass or whether it's a tin roof, or whether you can tell me it's goose poop, I don't care. As I said, we'll farm in the dirt with wooden spoons if that's what it takes. So I hope to see y'all at the 2025 Solar Farm Summit. brought to you by American Farmland Trust, coming back, 3rd edition, solarfarmsummit.com. And I'm going to stop, I guess, my screen share and see if we have any questions. I was in the zone. Hey, we got a good little group. Thanks for sticking around, y'all.
Just
And
a
Ethan,
quick
too.
question. I see Stancy. I'm sorry, I'm unable to post in the chat for some reason, but yes, this will be recorded. This is going to be available on YouTube on our channel, and we will include the links in the chat. I'm sorry, I posted some links and I'm learning now they didn't come through. So we will have that in the description on the YouTube video.
Thank you, Katie.
Katie, did any of the links go through, or is that something we need to
I
share?
think it might be a me problem.
Okay.
So I think I see Katie Field sent one to everyone, and Greg's came through as well. So Greg did a lot of the links that you wanted me to share. So
Great. Well, thank you for this opportunity, and can't wait to see everyone in Chicago.